You know when I feel like I know that somebody is a cheater? It's when there's an allegation of cheating, but they say, oh, I did not have an affair. So according to the dictionary, an affair is actually a longer-term relationship with somebody, not just a fling. And I feel like this is a loophole where cheaters who have had sex with people are able to say, yeah, they say to themselves, I had sex with the person, then it was great or whatever. But then publicly they tell people, oh, I didn't have an affair. And so even though they know they cheated, they tell the world they did not have an affair because they're playing the definitional loophole that an affair is a relationship. And they feel like they were just having sex. So therefore, because they didn't have an affair, they could try to tell the world that no, they're not a scumbag cheater. But we have to be clear here, the allegations that Adam Levine is a cheater are just that. They're allegations, and we have to keep in mind that allegations could ultimately be untrue, even though in Adam Levine's statement, he does say the phrase, affair. That no, he did not have an affair, despite the allegations that are now surfacing. Now, I'm going to give you a summary of what is going on here and add my personal life advice commentary as somebody who's been married for 9 years and has 2 children, 7 and 4 and a half. Don't forget the half. Really important, otherwise you gotta piss off Max, okay? So I wanna do that because there are a lot of triggered people on the internet that are yelling and shouting, and rightfully so. You know, this is a little bit dramatic, but I do think it's very important to add some practical insight and some practical life advice to this, so that way hopefully everybody can learn from this, and I'm going to use myself as an example on this. So some background: Adam Levine, Maroon 5 singer. Behati Prinsloo, wife. They've been married for 8 years. She's a Victoria's Secret angel. Obviously, together, they've got a lot. Money, fame, children, family, beautiful home, beautiful life. Hey, sounds great, right? I mean, sure, some people now call Maroon 5 elevator music, but, you know, I have to say, it sounds like a pretty nice setup for a happy life. Well, there's obviously a lot more to this because something obviously broke. Because this individual named Sumner, who's an Instagram model, allegedly, she calls herself an Instagram model, says that she had to come out with information and the allegation that her and Adam Levine had an affair for about a year within the last year.
I was having an affair with a man who's married to a Victoria's Secret model. At the time, you know, I was young, I was naive, and I mean, quite frankly, I feel exploited. I wasn't in the scene like I am now, so I was definitely very easily manipulated.
And the reason she was coming out with that is because her friend got screenshots, because she sent her friend those screenshots, of her basically having flirtatious conversations with Adam Levine, and some, I imagine, trophy of how she had sex with Adam Levine, whatever. And she wanted to get ahead of her friend selling those screenshots to a tabloid, some friend or a creative story to come out with this story for yourself. Because, see, she, that is Sumner, does say that she's new to LA, but I'll tell you, even if you're new to LA, you know, if you break a big story like this, a big allegation against somebody who's really got a lot more fame than you, it brings a lot of attention to you. It brings a lot of hate to you, but it can also bring more people looking at your Instagram profile, and that is the way of social media today. Now, Sumner tried to play this down by saying things like, well, I was young. Well, the problem with that is this was all happening within the last year, so, you know, if you're 23 today, like, what were you, like 22? Like, I don't know if that's the best excuse, and I don't know that the next best excuse that she gives is really good either, and that's saying things like she feels like she was manipulated, exploited, because A, she was new to LA, and B, Adam Levine was using a verified account on Instagram. I have to say, if you feel manipulated by a blue check mark, my heart goes out to you because there are bigger problems at play.
I only came forward because I wanted to kill whatever story the tabloid had. The most important part that I did definitely gloss over is the fact that I was under the impression that their marriage was over. Also, he was DMing me straight from his verified Instagram account. I didn't have any reason to further question it. But I now realize that that was likely a manipulation tactic of his, you know, just hiding in plain sight.
Nobody's hiding in plain sight and able to manipulate people, in my opinion, or should be able to, because somebody has a blue check mark. And if that is true, maybe we need to start the trend, expose the blue check mark. Okay, it just sounds crazy. But now, a lot of stress is being put on Behati and to her children, the family of Adam Levine. And they are the real victims here, not Sumner, who had a relationship, likely a cheating relationship, and a sexual relationship for a year, and is now essentially showing that off as a trophy to other people, certainly starting with her friends. But the real victim here, and this is why Sumner is getting a lot of hate for potentially playing victimhood, the real victim here is Behati, because she is not only now pregnant with her third child, but has to consider the potential to go through a devastating divorce or to stay with somebody who's a cheater, if indeed he is, which obviously at this point the internet has concluded, no, he's a cheater, Kevin. Don't even suggest that he's not. All right, well, look, here's the thing. We're going to get into some practical advice here, but there's some really funky things about this story, including a screenshot that suggests Adam Levine asked for permission from Sumner via a, quote, serious question that, hey, is it okay if he names his next child, if it's a boy, Sumner, spelled that same way, Sumner?
He said, okay, serious question. I'm having another baby, and if it's a boy, I really want to name it Sumner. You okay with that? Dead serious.
You know, to me, that just seems like extremely inappropriate. That would almost be like me going to my wife and saying, hey, can we name our next daughter, or our first daughter, after my middle school crush? Except this is even worse. It's, let's name our child after somebody I've been allegedly, but likely, doinking for the last year. That is really an ugly trophy. That is turning your child into a trophy of your scandalous and undercover fling. Quite dirty. So there are some things here that are pretty nasty in the story, and I think they actually help make the situation quite viral. A second woman has come out. She's a comedian. Apparently, she has screenshots showing things like, I'm obsessed with you, and her replies like, dude, aren't you married? And his replies like, yeah, but it's a bit complicated. Stuff gets hard, and the vid thing didn't help. I might get away. You know, these things just don't sound like they're from somebody who has the correct intentions, of course, assuming that these are indeed from Adam Levine and that they're factual. See, Aristotle, and I'm a big Aristotelian, you know, do the right thing when people aren't even looking, right? That's very important. But Aristotle once said, it's the intention that makes the crime. See, people make mistakes. You know, if you were right now teleported into a room and you're a woman and there's a you know, oiled up dude with a six-pack and it's like, hey, here's some wine, or maybe you've already had something to drink, like, let's go. You know, that is a situation where your barriers are likely going to be very low. The same would be true in reverse for a guy. You know, you get teleported with a model in a hotel room, and you're both naked and oiled up, and you've had alcohol. Your barriers are going to be very low to be able to resist this sort of temptation. That's not to say you can't resist the temptation, and everybody hopes that they will be able to, but your barriers will be extremely low. But again, Aristotle says it's the intention that makes the crime, and this is where there's a difference between you know, a one-night mistake and a long-term relationship where you've clearly had enough time to realize what you're doing is wrong. You've had enough time to try to correct and remedy the situation, but you then only do once you're exposed. That's when you know, in my opinion, that somebody really is more likely devious and guilty than not, because again, the intention makes the crime. Everybody makes mistakes, but the intention is everything, because intention and wrong intentions lead to betrayal and a lack of trust, not only by your spouse and your children, but by others around you, whether it's in business or family or otherwise. And I think this is the most devastating impact of somebody betraying their family, and really creates, and we can't say this enough, that the biggest victim here is Behati, and everybody's heart should go out to her and the children, especially given that she's pregnant, where you already have the nightmares of pregnancy to go through, which are very terrible for some people, from not only nausea and morning sickness, but massive hormone imbalances that make pregnancy extremely stressful and in some cases for people extremely painful. So terrible timing for all of this, but ultimately the truth tends to have a way of coming out, and oftentimes it comes out at a very inconvenient time. So what is my practical advice for individuals in relationships? Well, my practical advice here is, it might sound cliche, but quite frankly, it's communication. I have personally had feelings as well of wanting to have sex with other women. I have been extremely clear about that to Lauren anytime I've gone through those sort of phases of like, wow, I don't know why, but I'm in this phase right now where I have this extreme urge to have sex with other women. And that could be something that anybody could feel, whether they're a man or a woman, about another man or a woman. And I think it's very important to have that dialogue with another person because you don't want to act on those feelings and you want to make sure you keep yourself away from that temptation. Now, I've never acted on those feelings as much as I would have loved to in life. I've never had another sexual partner in life. I met Lauren when I was 16 years old and she was 17 years old. Ooh, scandalous. I mean, like, I don't know what that's like. And so it's potentially even more tempting for me, but I don't put myself into a dark alley because I don't want to get mugged. I don't put myself into situations with other women because I don't want to betray Lauren, and I don't want to do what's wrong and lose that Aristotelian integrity that I feel I have. So one of the things that I found that's very useful is when we have a problem in our relationship, I bring it up, even if it feels like it'd be difficult to bring up. It's very difficult to tell your spouse that, hey, you have feelings that you want to have sex with other people. But I actually think this is extremely important because then you can walk through, okay, why? What's the goal? What's missing? What's the feeling? Is it just lust? Is it a desire for something different? Okay, can we do something different? What can we do? Can we go on a couples only vacation? Let's go to Germany. Let's go to Italy. Let's get away from the kids for a while. What can we do to get through this together? Not just time wise, but action wise. What can we do differently? And I found personally that these sort of feelings can come in waves where sometimes you're just like totally uninterested, you're busy with other things, and that's not even a remote consideration. And other times you have this amplified feeling of, oh my gosh, like I'm vulnerable here, right? And I think having that discussion is extremely clear, so that way you and your partner can work on these situations together. I believe this is very, very important life advice. It's worked very well for Lauren and I. It's never failed. I hope it never does fail. It also certainly helps that if you keep yourself away from temptation, it's very hard to end up in that hotel room because you can't get teleported, like I said in this situation. Anyway, situation sounds pretty crazy. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. I know I'm a finance channel, and this isn't something I usually talk about. But hey, you know what? There is some good news. If you want to get 12 totally free stocks, you can go to meetkevin.com/Weeble and get up to 12 totally free stocks.